children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, wallahu akbar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our new episode of Our Schools What is Missing. Today we're going to be focusing on Portrait of a New Class with our guest for this series, Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. Dr. Mamdouh, just to remind the viewers, was an ex-professor at Johns Hopkins University. He's also co-founded a number of different schools across the globe, and he has co-authored and authored a number of different books on Islam and education, both separately and together, I believe. Welcome, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh again, Doctor. As always, a pleasure to have you here for this program and the series.
It is my pleasure and honor at the same time.
Jazakallah khair. Now, continuing on our theme of portrait of an excellent class, can you just give a little bit of background about what you have been saying, and can you take us further in to this
I think
portrait?
the portrait can extend to take a few days to finish, or perhaps few weeks to finish, because there are many good features that you can see, and I think that the parents can learn from this, because when they select a good school, they need to see to observe a number of teachers teaching in the class to see if they have these qualities, and they would definitely know that this school is good and it's a good choice for their children. One of the features is that you find this teacher is doing a balanced distribution of time.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the time of the class very effectively. For example, one of the common bad practices is, let me say that in a reading lesson, a teacher would ask a student to read, let's say, 10 lines. He would read, and the rest of the class, you're talking about 29 or 25 students, are listening. Passive learners. So he is the one who is doing the reading, and they are the ones who are doing the listening. It would take him, for example, let's say that 5 to 10 minutes. So, and the teacher would move to another one, right? And the same thing happens. The rest of the class is passive learners, and he is the one who's doing the active learning. He is the one who is reading. And the third one. So the class ends with 3 or 4 students or 5 students read, and the rest of the students didn't have opportunity of reading in the class. This is ineffective use of time.
And inefficient even.
Why? Because there are many techniques that you can involve all the students to read at the same time. For example, a good teacher can divide the students into 2 groups. Each 2 students are facing each other, or are sitting beside each other. So now, these students in group A are reading, and the other students in group B who are sitting beside them or in front of them, they are correcting them. So it would take only 5 minutes for the whole group to read. And then you reversed, you swapped. So you ask group B to do the reading, and group A would do the correction. So in 10 minutes time, you give an opportunity for 30 students to read.
And correct
each other. And you can go from one group into another, from one P into another, to check what they're doing.
And I guess this is also important in terms of gaining the participation of everybody.
Of everyone. So this is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, you divide the students into groups, 3 or 4, and you say that, okay, this is number 1 in every group is do the reading and the others are listening. Then they will be given opportunity to correct. After 5 minutes, right? Student number 2 in each group would do the reading and the rest is doing the correction. After 5 minutes, so you can do it in 20 minutes. You give opportunity for all the students. In the example that I gave before this, you can do it only in 10 minutes. So there are different ways of doing it, but the result, as you mentioned, that all the students did the activity. All the students had opportunity to practice their language.
How important is I mean, you've been mentioning 5-minute slots and perhaps 10-minute slots and these fairly small little slots. How important is the pace of the lesson?
Oh, yeah.
Itself?
That's why I began my talk today talking about a balanced distribution of time. If I prepared my lesson well, I would know exactly the number of tasks that I need to finish. So I'd give an amount of time for each task. So this amount of time, so I need to finish this task, let's say 10 minutes. I only have 10 minutes for this task. So I would take the model that I offered in the earlier time here, this model number A. If I have 20 minutes for this task, I can select model number 2, and so on and so forth. If I have different models, different options, and I know my job very well, so I can use it whenever I need it.
Okay.
So if I plan the lesson well, that's why planning the lesson takes much more time and effort from the teacher than the actual teaching in the classroom. A lot of teachers, this is one of the misconceptions among the teachers, I don't want to name specific countries, but this is a misconception among teachers. Okay, I do my job in the class, and they think that what they do in the class is enough. No. What you do before you get into the class, what you do even after the class is something important. After the class, you modify the lesson plan based on the results that you have seen.
Again, the ongoing evaluation idea.
Ongoing evaluation. Then you go to evaluation. If you make assessment, and we'll talk about that later on. But the work of the teacher is not just inside the classroom. It should more work should be done before, and some work should be done after that.
Okay. Now, we've talked about cooperation and group work, and you've been emphasizing that as this idea, this way to bring in skills with knowledge. Is there a place for independent work? Have we totally lost this now? Or?
Absolutely not. As we mentioned perhaps in some episodes before, these are called teaching strategies. So this is one strategy. Collaborative work is one strategy. Perhaps it sounds or it looks more important than others. In some cases it is. But again, we didn't even forget about lecturing. 3 minutes lecturing is another strategy. 5 minutes for questions and answers and discussion is another strategy. Independent work is another strategy. There should be some tasks that are designed to help the students work by themselves alone. We need to develop this skill. It's very important because most of the tasks that we do in our life may be independent. You do them as an individual. Yes, there are many tasks or some tasks that need to be done collaborative, but there are a lot of things that you do it independently. Al-Imam Hassan al-Basri has an amazing thing about the independent work. He said that I knew that there are things that nobody can do for me. I have to do them by myself. Nobody else can do that job for me. So I kept myself busy doing this. Or I trained myself to do these things because I know nobody else is going to do that on my behalf. I knew that I am responsible for doing my 5 prayers every day. It's not my mother who is going to do this. It's not my father. It's not my brother. It's not my teacher. So I have to do this. So this is the significance and the importance of being trained to do independent work. You have to know that you have to do this independent.
Yeah, I'd like to just touch on that because it seems that the key here to independent work is making the student realize that he in fact is responsible for his or her own learning. And that is another thing that relates back to parents, because a lot of these kids, their parents want to do so much for them and they're helping them. And then when it comes to say, well, where is your bag?
Yeah.
He hasn't got it because he's relied on mum to put everything ready for him. So how can we encourage as teachers this idea of responsibility?
Yeah. Well, that's why we are ask teachers, when you plan your lesson well, you put in front of you a number of teaching strategies. And then you have the tasks, or you design the tasks and the activities. And you know that this task would best fit this strategy, teaching strategy. And this one would best fit this. So a good teacher would select 2 or 3 of them each time. It's not necessary that he would repeat them in every class. If he has a number of 10 teaching strategies, he may use today or in this period 2 or 3 of them. Next time he may use 4, and third time he may use 1 or 2. It depends on the nature of the activities and the tasks that he designed for the students. So the good teacher would design different activities to involve all these strategies, because each one of these strategies achieves some qualities and some skills in the students.
Okay.
This is a feature of a good...
I'd like to give you an example of my own personal experience.
Oh, sure. I know that your background is teaching.
Yeah, some of it, yeah.
So in the same boat.
I'd like to give you an example of someone who persistently comes without... He doesn't have an idea of responsibility for his own work. How can we inculcate this in the class?
Yeah. When you give, after you give, for example, collaborative work task, and then after that, now each one of you would work independently, for example, to sum up the activity that he did, or to sum up his role in this group.
So there's an independent link. Yeah. After the group work, we've got an independent link.
You link the 2 strategies together. After they work collaboratively, now each one of them is describing his own role in the group. Someone would say that I was the timekeeper, and this helped the group to achieve this and this and this and this. So now he is describing his own work. He's doing it independently. Nobody is helping them, right? And it is helping him. But each one of them would say that his effect or his role in the group, and he would be very proud of himself that he did this. So after some time, you can give him an assignment. Now you did this, all of you did it here collectively. Now it's your job to do it at home. Yes, you have this task and you need to work it independently. So the teachers here is developing these skills. The collaborative work skill, how to work collaboratively, and at the same time, how to work independently. Yes, and so you develop this and you develop this.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. We're going to take a short break there. We'll be back right after the break.
A light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, viewers. Our episode of Our Schools, What is Missing. For the break, we were talking about the portrait of an excellent class with Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed, our resident guest for this series. Doctor, we've touched on independent work in the class. We've touched on salient features in previous episodes of a class. Continuing on that theme, with respect to challenging tasks, how important is it for us to make the environment challenging inside the class?
Good. First of all, I hope that the viewers are enjoying the painting of some of the portrait of an excellent classroom. I hope they do. It's also one feature of the good classroom or good teaching and good environment is the type of tasks that are given. They are challenging. Because if you don't challenge the students, they would feel bored. They do not utilize their maximum abilities. They lose a lot. So that should be challenging for them. And what we call is one step ahead. So if the students know, for example, their vocabulary, the amount of vocabulary that they know is 500 words. When I give them a passage to read or an article to read, I would guarantee that it should have 10% of the vocabulary that they have not studied. So this would be a challenge for them to predict the meaning of this vocabulary. So there should be one step ahead of them, so to challenge their abilities. If you're not challenging them, they are not really learning. They are staying, you are measuring what they have.
How difficult is it for teachers to get a balance here? Because, again, from my personal experience, if you put a task in front of them and it's too difficult, then, and often, a lot of the time it's too difficult, then they get a bit discouraged.
Yes.
And then you've got the opposite, where if it's too easy all the time, they say, oh, it's easy, we've done it before, and they're not interested. How important is this balance, and how much should we challenge them?
First, before we explain that, I'd like to tell you that a good teacher who identified the level of his students very well would know that this 4 students or these 10 students or this group of students, yes, this is their level. So when I design a task for them, I would give them task number A, which is one level ahead of them. The other group, because I know that they are more qualified than those students, so I give them task number 2, which is more difficult than task number, because I know after identifying their strengths and I know that they are strong, so I give them a difficult task than that one. So by doing these different tasks based on the level of the students, you are challenging every group according to their abilities.
And yeah, we're also dealing with a variety of different abilities, as we've discussed before.
We know is the individual differences, and it is the right of every student to address or to get his needs done.
And what, in regards to the teacher and the preparation for making the environment challenging, how can the teacher know that what he's going to give his students is going to be of a suitable nature?
Yeah. 2 elements are needed, or 3 elements. We said that identifying the strength and the weakness of the students and classifying them accordingly, right? Without labeling them, because this may hurt some feeling. Just group Abu Bakr or group Fatima or group Aisha or group, calling them any names that don't signify anything. It's not the best group or the.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something important here before, which was mixing the groups. So not always putting the weaker students together, but mixing them around so that they don't feel that I'm in with the bad group.
Yeah. This is something important here. So this is one element, is identifying them. The other element is the experience of the teacher. An experienced teacher would all the time, who would have gone through this many times, so he would know all the time. He would develop 2 different tasks based on the level of the students, or 3 different tasks, right? It may be the same task, but with slight variation. For example, I give a passage to all the students, right? To some students, I would ask them to write, to give them a blank every 10 words. They have to fill in the blank. So assume that the passage is 50 words, so they have 5 blanks to fill. Another group which is more advanced, I give them an opportunity to fill a blank after every 7 words, right? So they have to answer more than the other student. A third group, I would delete, for example, every 5 words, I would delete a word. That means they need to put 10 words, versus the first group that they are allowed only to put 5 words. So the level of a challenge here for the last group is higher than the level of a challenge for the medium group. And this is just a simple idea about that. And there are many ways of doing this. And by experience, you can perfect your work. But training saves a lot of time. If the teachers are well trained, whether the trainers are from the school itself or are external trainers, this type of training saves time. It's very essential. You've noticed that perhaps the most repetitive word that through all these episodes is the word training.
I'm going to mention, because this seems like a recurring theme.
Yes, it is recurring.
There's several recurring themes, but this seems to be one of the most important.
No training, no progress. And this is an ongoing process. There will never be a time that your teachers do not need training. Even the oldest, even the most experienced teacher need to be trained.
They need to refresh their ideas.
Yes,
they need to
absolutely,
be creative. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so that's challenging tasks and challenging the students. Now you've put in place all of these lovely ideas. Now, what about student evaluation? What are the different types of student evaluation? Because I think we're stuck in often, if there's any evaluation at all, we're often stuck in perhaps writing a brief report, and that's once a year, and that's it. What are the different types of evaluation, perhaps between the student and the teacher, and delivering that to the parents in the school?
This is one feature of the excellent class. I remember a class, which was a PE class, and it was in the gym. And the teacher divided the students into groups, and each of them were doing some activities. And the teacher had a list of skills written, and the list of the students, the name of the students were here. So I've seen her, right, and I checked this. I asked her to give it to me, and so she put all the skills that are required for the students to do, right, or to acquire. She would go to a group and observe them and see student number A is capable of acquiring this skill. She already acquired the skill of jumping into the horse, on the horse, or she was capable of jumping that distance, right? So she would, in front of this skill, she would mark it, right, like that. So this student gained this skill number 1, and skill number 7, and skill number 14. The other students did not get the skill number 1, but she got number 7 and number 14. So it was accurate assessment of a PE lesson.
Well, that's quite a phenomenon.
A phenomenon.
Because when I think about my PE lessons back at school,
I enjoyed the lesson, very much. And some teachers do this. They describe the skills and the knowledge that are needed by students. And once they achieve it, they just tick it. And in addition to this, the teacher would write a comment here. The student acquired this skill, but it is inconsistent. It needs more training.
And I guess this must have quite a positive effect on the student to be evaluated on the spot, because they're always they write their work or they do it, but to be actually evaluated in front of them, that must be quite a useful tool for the teacher.
the teacher used to share her evaluation with the student. You see that she said that I found that after 15 minutes you acquired 3 skills and you're still missing these skills. We still have 15 more minutes and I'll come back to you to tell you. So you acquired this and this and this. You need some work on this and you're missing this.
That's very effective. Yeah.
Very effective. So this is a type of evaluation that's really something very good. And that's why the next lesson would be designed based on this. If the student acquired these skills, so he or she needs not to do them again. So need to focus on these ones more than repeating these ones.
Okay, so so this helps with progression.
Yes, progression, and it helps in, they call it formative evaluation, like summative evaluation or summative assessment. This is called formative. So that means the new lesson is designed based on the result of the first evaluation. This can be done by quizzes and by... But what is more important, some teachers would ask some students only in the class to test whether they understood or not. This is not assessment for all students.
It's not enough.
It's only a few students who showed that they understood this. It's not fair, and I think that the teacher should really have clear idea about all the students. Having such papers like this would help the
Just
teachers.
before we end the episode there, can you just give us 1 or 2 more different ways of evaluation just to show the viewers that the variety that should be taking place?
Oral evaluation is an evaluation. When you ask some questions and you get answers from the students. Quizzes and written evaluation, right? Presentation skill. So a student would come and make presentation, and the student knows that these are the skills that he is supposed to acquire, and the teacher would evaluate. So even in a presentation case, you can evaluate the students. In an exam that's based on skills and standards, it's not based on a textbook or a memorized thing. You see what I'm saying? So it's the quality of the quiz or the quality of the exam determines the quality of assessment that you do it. But there are many types. We said that the oral one and the written quiz and even the group discussion. While they are discussing, you can come and sit and just observe them and see who is the one who is leading it. Who is the one who is injecting good and deep ideas. And so there are different ways of evaluation, but the most important thing is documenting that to have a good portrait of each student individually.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. That concludes this episode and our series of Our Schools What Is Missing. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed as much as I have. I'm sure you have thoroughly enjoyed it. We look forward to you joining us for a number of other series similar. Thank you very much. Thank you for Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Also, I'd like to express my thanks to Al-Huda, who hosted me too.
We wish to see you on Al-Huda once again, inshallah. Jazakallah kullu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallah